Hi, I'm Dave,
And I'm Tyler.
and this
This
is
is
the
the
Capcom
Capcom
Show.
Show.
All right, everyone, we are back for our main episode again.
Yep. For this month, we're going over a topic that we briefly covered. I want to say we didn't really go in depth into it earlier, but
Basically, so when we first started this, at least for me, I didn't. We talked about property and ownership, but through more time, I realized that one of the big dividing lines, you could say, between right and left anarchists, respectively, is adherence to sticky property norms or occupancy and use property norms. And had I realized that sooner, we would have talked about that earlier and at least
yes.
talked more about it in our first episode.
And for those who are those who might be listening, what is the exact like terminology with sticky property norms and occupancy and use? Just for pedantics, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's important. I think most people have a good like a common understanding of it. Um, Shit, I lost my page. Hold on. Okay, here it is. So, regarding sticky property norms, uh, it goes from John Locke, or it's also known as propertarianism.
Which the quick 30-second read up that I had on it led me to believe that I don't like this.
Yeah. So, propertarianism is basically a political philosophy that reduces all questions of ethics to the right to own property. So, where an owner can keep his property more or less until he consents to gift it or sell it, basically.
Yeah,
That's called sticky property norms. And
I don't like that.
yeah.
I don't.
Now, and then you can explain your basically occupancy and use.
Yes. I guess occupancy and use is would you I'd call it more of a subjective kind of term.
I would
Um,
agree. So the reason I'm doing this is because I want to explain why in general I think sticky property norms are more objective than occupancy
Yes.
and use. And
You're right.
I think in most cases sticky norms are more useful. I'm not saying that occupancy and use can't be useful because it can be and it still
Yes.
can exist, but I don't think it will exist or be as useful as much as sticky
And
norms.
and I do have an interesting argument with this that I mean if you want I can just go off with it. It might help you explain it later on.
Uh, do your basic like what is occupancy and use?
Okay. Occupancy and use is essentially it's an argument for personal property from more or less used. It's essentially that if you occupy something or maintain it, you use it, it's your property. It's it's one of the things where it's a toothbrush joke.
Yeah.
You're stealing your toothbrush, this kind of thing. Um, it's the idea that everything is collectively owned in a collective. That individualists who are very devout in that idea, they will use to say, "Well, I want my toothbrush. It's my toothbrush," and yes, it's your toothbrush. You use it. You occupy it. I mean, technically, it has your germs on it to begin with, so no one else is going to want to use it to begin with. That's your personal property, and myself, and I'll use this argument later on. I'm not going to bring it up right now, but I now have understood a clear difference between private and personal property norms, and private is again it's more of something it's property that you use to exploit other people to extract wealth. Um, and there's nothing wrong with objectively, there's nothing wrong with owning private property as long as everyone consents. However, though, I'm one of those people where I believe that if you exploit someone, even if they consent, it doesn't fucking matter anymore. You're exploiting someone, and they might not even know it. They're just like, oh, I want to do this. Oh.
This will go back to our hierarchy and exploitation episode.
Yeah. Anyways, you want
Okay, so me and a friend, I had him help make this image, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm gonna like edit it in the video. So if you look on the screen, you'll see it's a basic timeline, so the two arrowheads going left and right. There's a dotted line going straight down the middle. And then the left is in linear time regarding the past, and on the right of that middle line, you have the future, right? The dividing line, the dotted dividing line, represents the present moment, the here and now. What's happening now? And then there's a bubble going all the way from the left up to the here and now line, and I put that as sticky property norms. Now, there's a bubble in the center with a selective amount to the right and to the future and in the future. And it says what general proponents of occupancy and use believe it to be. And there's a small tiny bubble right at the dotted line saying occupancy and use in actuality. So the whole thing is, regarding sticky property norms, it all starts back to the homestead principle, right? What you put your labor into,
Yes.
you own, right?
Yes.
Occupancy and use.
Now,
Do you see where I'm going with this? Can you see where I'm going with this?
Yes. Because as you say that, what you put your labor into, you now own. As someone who works at a very labor-intensive job, do I own every bit of product that I create out of that? No, I don't.
That's the thing.
I don't own the property that I work on, even though my job is to actively maintain and produce it.
Mm-hmm. So my whole thing is, okay, so if this is going back to a definitions, maybe this could be considered semantics, but more objectively, it's very regarding what does it mean to occupy something? What does it mean to use something? Because I've made this argument with other left anarchists,
Right.
and they'll say, okay, well, we adhere to occupancy and use. Okay, you own a personal home, right?
Yes.
All right. So what happens when you leave that personal home? Why can't I say you're not occupying or using that home anymore, and therefore you don't own it?
That's a good point. And my whole issue with that is, in a left anarchist society, which I don't think we've ever actually seen one before Chaz. I don't know if that's even a thing, because I believe in the way Chaz set it up was that anyone who lived in the zone was able to move around freely, even if they didn't want to participate in the protest, whatever. Their rights were respected, and obviously their house wasn't like, oh, your house is now collectivized. I think it's the idea that your belongings are inside of it. It's definitely a very subjective case by case situation that it needs to be looked at on a case by case situation. Your belongings are there. You have a lot of your
And the whole
you is there still, even if you leave.
But the whole thing is that isn't that basically what left anarchists argue against, which is absentee property. There's a physical separation between the supposed owner and the supposed property in question.
Yes.
There's a separation.
And that might be inherently flawed. And if it is, it falls on left anarchists to reject it and come up with something better. And that's something that I believe we should be doing, is coming up with something better. Because if you honestly believe that personal property it ends when someone leaves it, say if I have, for instance, and this is something that I've been wanting to tease, I'm still young, so my first car that I literally just bought it, it's now actually mine. It's not mine yet. The bank owns it. I have to pay the bank for it for 5 years, and then I get it. All of it's voluntarily. I decided, hey, I'm going to pay X dollars a month for this vehicle, and at the end of 5 years, provided I paid everything on time and there's no hang-ups, it's mine. All of it is mine. Now, the car that I've been driving for the past 7 years, my father bought it for me on his credit. it's his. But here's the thing. I've always referred to it as my car because he doesn't drive it. Whose property is it then? Technically, under the state of the United States in Michigan, it is his. But
It also depends. Did he actually explicitly say this is yours, or does he say, "I'm letting you use this"?
he would always establish that it's his car. So it was real idea that it was his personal property,
and he is going to let you use it.
and he was going to let me use it. Which I would like to point out. And it's a good thing he doesn't know that this podcast exists or listens to it in any capacity. Accord with how my father is with a lot of things, he would always hang that over my head anytime an issue with the car came up. It's part of the reason why I want to be more independent with him. I still can't because he's a co-signer because I have no fucking credit. Because apparently building credit is something foreign to me.
Building credit fucking blows.
I hate the idea of a cashless society, but I also hate the idea of a society that's based completely on financial wealth. I just hate living, essentially. You scared the shit out of your cat. But the idea that I'm bringing this up in is that car is now my property. Once it's mine fully, it's technically my occupancy and use. So it's essentially my property. Just let me fuck with your cat in peace, Jesus, man.
Sorry.
But essentially, it's my property. It's my personal property. Now, I was planning because of all this COVID stuff going on, I don't have protections for it if I get unemployed. Originally, they were offering today at the bank that they were going to say, hey, if you become unemployed, if you pay $40 a month for this and you become unemployed, your insurance will pick up the payments until you have employment again. And I'm like, that sounds cool and all, but I mean, my job's not necessarily guaranteed 40 hours a week, but they're not going to be like, all right, you're going to definitely have an unemployment. It all depends on, which I'm also going to tally this one down. I'm probably off on this. I forgot that I was actually tallying. If you read, or if you listen to our current events for this month, I jokingly said, and kind of serious at this, I was actually going to start keeping counts of how many times I said Ray or mask, unironically, and I lost count after the first one because I got really passionate into it. So I just kind of freed it up to 5. I'm pretty sure I'm running low on my count. But that's going to be number 6 for Ray or fucking masks, so I don't have to be unemployed. Please, thank you. Because my fallback right now is I don't have Taco Bell anymore. My fallback is Uber, or not Uber Eats, Grubhub.
Mm-hmm.
Which is completely fine because it'll give me enough income to be able to make payments on it. It's essentially, it is my car. I'm working for Grubhub to provide food for people using my property, and no one's getting exploited for it, so it's still my personal property.
It's your own capital.
Yes, it's my own capital. I provide my own vehicle to deliver food that other people have paid for to them. They tip me, and essentially it's all voluntarily exchanged. It's all, that's a good anarchist model to follow.
So this is another thing. So when you get out and leave your car, you're not occupying and using it.
Yes, and that's when it becomes case by case.
That's my thing is, like, this is why I drew it in the...
But yeah,
Another thing too, sorry, I thought this was a random thought I had a while ago. But the whole giving stolen land back to the natives.
yes.
If you apply occupancy and use, they aren't occupying and using a lot of the land anymore.
Yes, but to be fair, they've also gotten forced off that land by a state.
Well, the thing is, but now you're saying just because you occupy and use something, that doesn't mean you are entitled to do so.
That's true.
It's
very subjective.
That goes against the whole principle. Does it not?
Property is always a fun thing to talk about. And it's something that I feel as a society we will never agree on. And that's going to be one of those things where it's just going to keep coming back of, where does the ownership end? Ethically, where does ownership end?
This is why I think that it's a lot more subjective, because you're appealing to both the past and in the future in a lot of cases, but in terms of sticky norms, you only have to appeal to the past. It doesn't matter about the future. So, like, in terms of absentee or abandoned property, this argument comes up. Well, in regarding to abandoned property, You can. I would. The case is
I would-
you have to assume it is owned until there is evidence to suggest it isn't owned, or
Yes.
the owner had said, I'm abandoning this. Like, if I own a home, right, and if you own property, you naturally have the incentive, if you care about it, to make other people know that you own it.
Yes.
So it doesn't make sense to own something and then not literally do anything with it in any way, sense, or form.
Yes.
It naturally, if you care about it, you're gonna make other people know about it and defend it, your ownership claim over it. So if someone owns a house and then they die or whatever,
Yeah.
naturally, I would say it's up to if there's a will.
If there's a will, yeah, the will would definitely supersede anything.
Yes.
Because that is their words, that is their wishes.
Yes. If there's not a will, I would say you have to talk to closest relatives or friends. Yes. And then if none of them want it, hey, it's abandoned property. First come, first served.
Yes.
And it'll go back to common property or whatever.
Yes. Yep. Public property, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely it's definitely a good cause to or a good argument to have, because no one is ever right, but no one is ever wrong in this situation, because there's a lot of subjectives, there's a lot of variables that everyone has to consider. Mm-hmm. And one of these variables that I do want to talk about, because it has come up again with states reopening, and evictions now being sentenced out.
Mm-hmm.
Landlording is, first off, there's a meme, it was the Simpsons meme that's been running around that's obviously doctored, saying that landlording is not a job, and it isn't.
Yeah, I've seen it with the Lisa.
Yep, and the chalkboard and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a lot of people saying, well, I maintain that property. Okay, cool. So where does it become a job? Where does it become a job? And a lot of times they say, well, these people live in my property and I maintain it for them. So that's where the job is. You don't maintain shit. What you do most of the times is landlords will outsource the jobs to other people to maintain that property that the tenants have issues with. Or they'll make the tenants do them themselves for a rent cut. That is called being a responsible property owner. When I own a house, I know I'm going to have to do maintenance on it. I'm going to have to mow the grass. I'm going to have to, do whatever I need to do to make my property be nice and livable. Do I get fucking paid for it? No. So why should I contract out someone who wants to live, someone who needs something that's essentially a basic necessity in life? Why should I get someone to move into my property and charge them to do stuff that I was already doing anyway? I mean, yeah, sure, I'm not using that property, but
in the same sense,
it's my responsibility as a property owner to make sure that it's well maintained.
You could argue that, but also if that person put their labor into it, now you're saying...
Now they might own it.
It depends, because it's either you say you occupy it and use it, therefore you own it, or you put your labor into it and therefore you own it.
Yeah, and it's I guess the homesteading principle could be used for it, that you own it with that. But again, what happens if I just come up and my landlord's like, all right, $500 a month for this house, and I'm like, I just mowed the grass. It's mine now.
I mean, yeah, that's probably not going to go very well.
It's not going to go very well, and I mean, my only experience with renting was our landlord was completely fucking shitty and would constantly break the renter's agreement, and anytime we would try to say, hey, you're breaking renter's agreement, I was the good tenant. I moved out after 3 months because my financial situation changed and I needed to move closer to my job because I no longer had the income. I was no longer generating the income because of economic downturn. For instance, I was living a lot further away from home. I was told that I was going to build up credit. It didn't. I was also under the impression that I'd have more freedom. I did. The issue there was my job had to cut labor, and I went from making $500 a week, working 60 hours a week, to making $300 a week, going back to just a basic operator. If I'm working 40 hours a week, if I was lucky. Very, very bad time, but very good time in my life, because that's probably the time when I put my foot down and started fucking standing up for myself. Essentially, if you maintain property that's yours, it's not a job, okay? And one of the people that I've actually had a debate with, an ANCAP, who was very big on this whole landlording issue, he said, well, at what point does, and he tried saying that the job that I do is not a job if I have to, if I have to make the product. Well, being a material handler, I said, well, it is a job because that means that my owner has to come out on the shop floor and do my job for me. And at that point, it's a responsibility for him because he needs to make his product that he sells for his paycheck, not mine. Mm-hmm. I get a cut of his paycheck, essentially, but it's essentially his paycheck on the beginning of the day. And I said, you're right. He could cut out my job and do it himself. And then I don't have that job anymore. It's not a job to him. That just becomes more responsibility for him, for his job. Mm-hmm. Alternatively, we have people who he contracts out. It's a third-party company. It's a landscaping company. They mow the lawn around his private property on his factory. And of course, private property. Now, I said off mic, and I'm just going to digress here for a little, or get off track here for just a split second. I said off mic before I started recording that the difference in, I'm holding this true. The difference between private and personal. Private is personal property used to extract labor or exploit other resources from people who may use that property and not get the full amount back that you would be getting. Personal is essentially the tools you own that you can make your own wealth with. For instance, if I were to do Grubhub with my new vehicle, that's my personal property. That's also my capital. I'm not exploiting anyone because I am my only employee there.
But now, if you hired someone else to drive,
someone else to drive my car, then that's personal or private property because I'm taking a cut of what they're doing doing to my car. But essentially, I'm not going to do that because I like driving and because I'm not a fucking class straighter. So.
And the whole thing is, if I agree.
Yes.
If I agree beforehand that, hey, I'm going to put labor into something, but I'm going to give this ownership claim to you. Yeah. In principle, there's nothing wrong with that.
No. But a lot of times with renters, that's not the case. You don't. At the end of your 1 year lease, you don't get the property.
You don't own it. Yeah,
You just renew and you keep fucking wasting money paying for a necessity of life. And that's, I told this person, I was like, look, listen, my boss, he pays people to come in on every Tuesday morning and mow the lawn around the factory. And that he could do himself and save the money. But that would mean that his job now becomes more stressful because that's an extra responsibility that he has to do is maintain his own property. But he outsources it to other people and pays them to do it. That's now a job. Mm-hmm. He's not doing it himself, and therefore he's not requesting payment for it because he already has other things to do. Essentially, the whole point of landlording is not a job. It boils down to, is owning property a job? No, it's not. It's
it's labor intensive for sure.
Yes.
But whether you want to call it a job, it's more like self-employment.
Yeah, I'm using job here as a pretty loosely to say, it's something that it's a responsibility that you do that's not your responsibility that in turn you get paid for. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very literal term of a job. Not, it's not, hey, when I get home, I have to go do my job of, maintaining my wardrobe. I have to go do laundry, Mm-hmm. I don't get paid to do fucking I would love to get paid to do laundry. I'd probably be more excited about doing it. But
yeah,
I don't. So, responsibilities and jobs are not the same thing. You can get paid to do a job, and if you add more responsibilities to that job, you can definitely negotiate a pay raise. But in the end of the day, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's not the same thing.
So, and in the end, it's the whole occupancy and use. Well, they're not occupying it. They're not using that property. But they still own it because they're using it to exploit other people. They're exploiting the income of the people who are on that property and who are constantly looking to maintain it because they have to for their living situation. If you follow me.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I do. I just also wanted to add in there's the anarcho syndicalist solar punks or whatever.
Hmm.
I
I
think
think I think I know the group you're talking about. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, yeah, yep. All right,
it's
go on.
it's the group that basically from the anarcho synergist chat, one of them are in.
Yeah.
They made I don't forget what program it was, but they digitized like a fully working small Ancapistan model
Yeah, I
of
remember you telling
living in
me.
community space where it's basically like um, it's sort of like a either an apartment or condo association. Like I don't know exactly what it is, but it was really interesting when they were explaining it. But they basically on this program created a 3D world space regarding a layout that would be functional for essentially like an Ancapistan or just an anarchist model, where
Right.
even they can even calculate like how much concrete it takes to build this structure, the electrical layout, the fucking power grid, how like the plumbing, like they planned all this out and it's all digitized in a model. One of the videos that I suggest it's called Arcology, ARK
Okay.
ology.
I know about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the YouTube channel it's on is called Traveling Through Time.
Hmm.
If you guys want to look it up, it's interesting. I think their Facebook page is literally Anarcho Syndicalist Solar Punks, though.
Yes.
Something like that.
We could probably post a link definitely.
Yeah, it was really because I talked to these guys about it on a call with one of the guys from the NSING, and it was really interesting how they calculated it and made
Yeah.
everything. So I highly recommend checking it out because apparently not many people know about it.
That's something that I would definitely also check out myself, just because I like simulations like that and running numbers, just because for some reason engineering just gets me all hot and bothered on the
Yeah,
inside. I'm just
they
like, "Ooh."
told me the like because I one of the things I asked them I was like, okay, this layout and plan now does it have to strictly be on flat land or can it be on like mountainsides? They're like, no, you can adapt it to mountainsides too, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we did some rough calculations. We're estimating that rent in one of these places would be like $200 to $300 a month. I'm like, well, that's like a third cheaper than fucking.
I would definitely.
I would say
That's 1 week of income easily for me now, with what I do and everything. So fuck yeah.
I mean, at my current rate, I could. That's less than 1 week of paycheck for me. Like,
Yeah.
fucking. I mean, I like this is one of those things that could revolutionize,
It could definitely
like the whole idea of
homesteading and yeah,
homesteading or
and just
renting
especially landlording. Yeah.
in general. Give some more competition.
Yeah,
And,
especially some good competition too.
Yeah.
Funny thing is there's also a significant overlap I've been seeing. Another reason why I hate landlord class. It's not my old Maoism roots. It's because of personal experiences. I've seen a lot of shit go down bad with landlords. For instance, you know these people. They're a couple of our friends. My buddy's wife, she's pregnant, and right before the COVID lockdown hit, they were getting evicted for no reason but because the horse farm that they own and operate sits on a land next to their landlords, and the landlord wants to buy the farm from them, and they don't want to sell it, so he's giving them a hard time, and you know. And so his best right now was to evict them during the middle of a pandemic while there was a pregnant woman on the lease.
Yeah, it's fucked.
And oh yeah, they don't live there anymore. They saved up all their stimulus as much as they can, and
moved.
yeah. Good news is the husband got injured going up the steps, and he fucked up his leg again. So
That's good news.
Good news for them, bad news for the landlord, because guess who's getting sued the fuck up?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But I remember every single time when she would tell us that when we were at work about the whole thing going on, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, does he have anything that would prevent a brick or a bottle being thrown through his window? Like, what's the point of that? I'm like, you could burn that fucker down, probably. Casually mentioned out, they're like, Tyler, you can't do that. That's illegal. Not illegal if you don't get caught. I mean,
I mean, if a tree falls in the forest, but no one's around,
they hear it. Does it make a sound?
Yeah, really.
You can't prove I was there throwing this empty can of Bud Light filled with fuel and oil and rag on fire through that window. What do you mean? Like, we didn't say anything about that publicly. Shit.
Yeah.
I'm in danger.
I'm in danger.
But essentially, landlording it's very predatory, especially the societal applications of it. I had a group I used with my friend Luke that I help run. It's not the same one that you're in. It's in a different one that you would never be allowed into just because of, you have ANCAP written all over your personal page. And that group is specifically set up to make fun of libertarian aligned people.
Yeah,
they would chew you into shreds.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially though, we actually had someone in there who was a landlord, and he was I made a post about it because we had issues with people using slurs, specifically the ableist slur of the word retard. We had people using that a lot, and I made a post saying, hey, if you're going to use this word, I'm only going to give you one warning, and if you don't edit your post before you approve it, because it's a post approval group,
mm-hmm.
You're going to get kicked. I'm not going to have that in my group. Fuck off. And there was a few comments. I made an announcement, and everyone was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's just a little bit out of my way to, edit it, but fuck it,
Yeah.
Yeah, so no one had a problem with it, and then someone was like, and then someone came on, and it was a landlord I later figured out after I was snooping through him. It was like, just block the people who have a dog as their Facebook profile or some Nigerian name. It's not that hard to prevent shit posting, and I'm sitting there thinking about it.
What?
Yeah.
I don't even get that.
It's a dog whistle kind of thing. It was essentially, or no, it was as a frog. It was saying, hey, black people who obviously are, Pepes or...
The frog thing, okay.
Yeah. He said something about dogs. I don't know. This happened like months ago. But, and then I just made the joke of a landlord, because I found out later that he was a landlord. He was bragging about it in one of the posts about a day or two before we had this interaction. Mm-hmm. He was bragging about it like, yeah, but I don't charge that much for my rates, and I usually do good jobs at maintaining. My renters are all happy, and I'm not predatory. I'm like, you're not predatory, and yet here you are charging people for an essential when you could just not buy property that people could buy for themselves anyway. And that's the first part. And then I was like, oh, and plus he's very casually racist, because that whole, oh yeah, just don't let Nigerians in. It's like, why? There's no basis to your fucking claim here. That sounds pretty fucking racist to me, man.
Yeah.
So
that's stupid.
He got fucking booted out pretty quickly.
Oh, I would imagine.
As soon as I seen the words, I'm a landlord, I was like, you're in the wrong group, bud. Did you not read the sign on the way in?
Yeah, apparently not.
He did not, and he got booted. Oh well. But yeah, essentially, landlording can be pretty predatory, and I think that a lot of the property norms that come with it are ridiculous, because it's private property. It's being used to exploit people for wealth that they need. Essentially, they need a place to live. People need a place to live. Mm-hmm. If you've ever seen a homeless person, their living situation is pretty fucking bad, because the rain makes them have a bad fucking time.
Yeah. Understandably so.
Yeah, so I do believe that housing should be a right. So,
and the whole thing is, okay, I mean, if you say something is a right, now you're saying just because someone labors for it doesn't mean it's theirs. There's a point.
Yeah, again.
And I understand the argument. I agree. People should have houses, should have access to housing instead of being fucking homeless.
Yes.
But I have a problem when you say it's a right. I have an inherent right to it, even if I don't do any sort of labor to it.
I feel like if there's no ownership, no exact ownership. First off, I hate banks, and the reason why is because banks own the most vacant property in America.
Yeah, that's true.
If it wasn't for banks existing, if it wasn't for people to own money essentially and property at the same time, I feel like our economy would be a lot better.
I will say the real estate market is really fucked up.
Yeah, real estate's always fucked up. My biggest hope for this COVID crash was I was like, dude, this housing market's gonna be fucking mint.
Yeah. It's also bullshit. Like, for example, I rent from a family member, and I just had this conversation with them a while ago. They get taxes twice a year, right? Summer and winter. Every time they gotta pay like $4,000 or $5,000 just in taxes to keep owning this fucking place.
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah, that's how much money they have to keep paying just to keep an actual ownership claim over it in taxes. It's not going to.
It's not going to the landlord. It's going to the state.
It's going directly to the state, and so that's a big thing that upcharges.
Yeah,
it's.
And I get that. I get that, which is also why I say, well, if the state doesn't exist, there's no reason to have a property tax.
There would be no property tax.
So, and then it creates a nice, like, kind of circular reasoning to why landlords are leeches. In an anarcho-communist society, landlording wouldn't exist because houses are, again, provided for everyone, to some degree. And property taxes shouldn't exist, so thus there'd be no incentive to own property. Really, there's no incentive.
Well,
to rent
ideally,
out property.
there would be no currency, so there's no reason to have property to extract capital.
Yes, there'd be no incentive, which is one of the reasons on how to mitigate that whole issue in general. It's just like you shove it in a corner and fucking burn. I don't know, you burn the house down. I don't know where I was going with this analogy, but pretty much you just take the problem, you put it somewhere else, and then the problem doesn't exist anymore. It just works.
Trust me, bro.
You do the thing, you do it right, just works.
It just reminds me of that
100%
tag. It just reminds me of the tag group. Source, trust me, bro.
Trust me, bro.
But I will say that whole thing, I mean, it makes sense to me. It's just the process of getting there. It wouldn't be instantaneous because it's going to require
a lot of the discussion that I feel like a lot of anarchists forget to have is how are you going to transition into this society, and that's more or less why I'm more left leaning, because I feel like a left leaning pathway is a good approach to anarchist society. I'm pretty sure you're the same way with right leaning with free markets would be a very good also approach to this society as well.
The whole thing is, I feel like these can actually work. They can work against each other, is because if you're trying to, you can't have a free market of a nationalized commodity. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Either the state nationalizes it and controls the whole economy of that commodity, essentially. Well, that would necessarily mean there's no free market of it.
Yes, and actually, I'm glad that you bring up nationalized commodities, because as I was just doing some snooping around on Beckonin before we started recording, and one of his, and this is why I keep falling more and more in love with Beckonin more than Marx, is because he actually didn't like Marx's idealism of a utopian socialist society. He quote, the proletariat or the dictatorship of the proletariat would lead to a one-party system that will just simply take away power from the proletariat and just change faces.
Yeah.
Where have we seen this before? Russia.
Yep.
China. The DPRK. I don't know about Cuba because I haven't heard much out of Cuba. Same thing with Venezuela. But it's essentially, it always happens.
This is where I would say that profit incentive that you rail against.
Yes.
It makes it like that can really be used against you if you're trying to eliminate it, but it really is just transferring the incentive from a decentralized standpoint to a centralized standpoint.
Yes. It's just, there's a lot of things about it that it's a lot of the issues going on with a lot of things in societies are just interconnected to begin with. Like we said in the current events, the BLM issue, it's not no longer about race, it's about police brutality. And with property norms, it's no longer it's not about just taxation, it's about use, it's about maintenance on property, it's about the if it's ethical or not.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely always a discussion, and as anarcho-synergists, we have to sit down and have a discussion about it.
Oh yeah, actually, since our last episode, if you don't know anarcho-synergism, go look at the Facebook page. They actually released a good introduction to manifesto. They're still trying to work on it and add to it.
Yeah,
but if you want to understand the basics, it's
I like it.
A combination of.
I love it because
it's basically
it's
a bridge.
Union.
It's a bridge between anarcho-communism and anarcho-capitalism.
Yeah, essentially, this was something that the leftist anarchists have definitely put into the group. Is the only similar to the state apparatus in this society that will allow both capital and communal to exist is through the use of worker unions and communal unions, consumer unions. Essentially, consumer unions and worker unions help control the price instead of supply and demand. Supply and demand, as we know, we're over seeing COVID happen, is a terrible way to control pricing, because suddenly if something is scarce because the supply got all used up and now it becomes very expensive, but say that item is, say, ventilators or something that is needed and the demand is still high, it doesn't matter. There's no incentive to sell low or sell high. It's just up to the pricing. And yes, I get competition will lower that or raise it.
Naturally, the more demand increases, the price is going to increase.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is the price increase. That's where you get the profit incentive. Saying, okay, hey, this is a profitable venture if we help feed this market.
Yeah.
And then the more competitors you bring in, that eventually over time the price goes back down now.
Yeah, that's fair. But that's not supply and demand isn't always it's not exclusive to capitalism. It's very inclusive also in a communal based society.
I mean, in a more general sense, if you get like
supply and demand is just basic economics to begin with.
Even if you get rid of the currency aspect of it,
yeah,
it's obviously the more in demand something is, the more willing you are to put action into getting and obtaining that.
I think the issue that more leftists have with the ideas of supply and demand with property and stuff is we have more vacant housing than we do homeless in the United States.
Mm-hmm. And
because of banks and because of all that, we have essentially created a scarcity, an artificial scarcity for profit.
Of housing too.
Yes. Instead of saying this is a necessity, people need this, the demand is high, but the supply is higher, so we can still sell high and not care about it.
Yeah.
That's a lot of the parts where people take issue with, is because that issue right there has now inflicted a very bad issue on anyone who cannot afford housing. We have enough to supply it to everyone for even discounted prices. Doesn't even have to be free. I'm pretty sure if you give like discounted,
there are some houses I know a few people have gotten for like actual like okay houses that would sell for like 100, 120 for like literally 20 or 30.
Yeah, and that's that's still a thing.
It's
but
it's a huge discount. I mean,
that's
it's
the
still a
whole
lot
idea
money, though.
of post scarcity of
most-
manufactured.
Yeah. I mean, that is what's the poverty rate or
And then
like ceiling. I forget what the technical term is.
you mean
The
like
poverty line. Sorry.
Poverty line.
Is what
Like
9,000 or something.
And you were from 15 to 19, actually, I believe.
Okay, so just above,
Which is funny because I make 2,000 or 3,000 above poverty line. Woo! Moving up in the world.
Yeah. Anyway, so like even that, it's still over a year's worth of poverty level wages.
Yes.
In worst case, like 2 or 3, just to obtain like a major discount to the house. I think this is where we need to work together to create alternatives to state-run housing.
I actually had a discussion a while back. I don't know when, but it was a while back, months we're talking, with someone in the anarcho-synergist group, and it was about a water treatment plant, right? Mm-hmm. Because of climate change, we're gonna have to start doing water treatment plants if we want to keep coastal cities alive and stuff like that. And essentially, I was saying that with a gift economy basis, you could easily have, the water treatment plant is necessary for a community to thrive. So it's a necessity. It needs to be built. It's not a profit-driven thing. It's a survival-driven thing. It's either you get clean water or you get cholera. And cholera doesn't sound like a good time. I'll definitely put in work to, engineering knowledge or whatever, to design a water treatment facility if it means not shitting my fucking bowels out of my ass.
I think profit is more of a nuanced word regarding benefit of something.
I think it's an artificial term applied to necessity.
I think it's necessary or not necessary. I think it's more used specifically in the currency sense.
Yes.
And not the commodity sense.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Because a currency, a real currency, is based on or is a commodity.
Yeah, and plus it also has an objective value.
It has some sort of,
it's supposed to have.
It's a subjective value.
Or you could just be the United States government and just be all like, it costs this much, and people are like, costs this much, okay.
Yeah, it's still a subjective value, but it's more universally held at a particular value relative to each other.
And I believe that the argument essentially went like, how are you going to pay the people who build the treatment plant and design it? It's like, well...
They benefit from using it.
They benefit from using it, for one. And two, you guys want a fucking house? Build your house.
The thing is where you can just trade labor for each other.
We could trade labor for each other, yes. And essentially building houses and building water treatment plants are pretty much the same thing. I mean, they're not obviously the same thing, the final product, but they're essentially the same thing in that you're building something for someone in the community, and you're building something for people in the community.
That's the thing where this is where the whole is. This is basically wage labor without a currency. Yes. And the principle is the same, basically. You're still working and then obtaining something you want in return.
Yes. And a lot of times, with property and use, who owns that property now? If the workers build it for each other with trading labor without in a cashless society, and not like the one that we're going to apparently, but I'm talking about one that doesn't have a currency. I forgot about that in the current events. I just want to say I'm excited for the cashless society because I don't fucking carry cash on me much. I know you're probably. I made a post about this. I know you saw it because I seen you like it. But it's me knowing that agorists are going to be pissed about not having about having cashless versus me being glad that I don't have to worry about ever having to carry fucking paper in my pocket again. And I was more happy about not having to carry paper in my pocket.
The whole thing is obviously you wanted to get in order for black and gray market activity.
And
the more untraceable your activity is, obviously the better
the better
to circumvent the state.
And I always said that Venmo and PayPal and stuff will definitely kind of shift more into a black market stance in this case. But everything's traceable, so it's not exactly
It's still
clean.
traceable. This is why still cash is king if you can do that.
Yes. Yep.
Or cryptocurrency, you know?
Yes. Which, goddamn, fuck cryptocurrency and its objective values. They're not usually tied to anything.
Oh yeah, anarcho-synergism made a cryptocurrency for anyone who wants to do that, and like the more you share, the more coins you get. I still haven't even done it because I'm a lazy fuck.
I might look into it just to tinker around with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I meant to do it earlier, but I forgot. Anyway, so for anyone who's into crypto, anarcho-synergism has a coin now.
Yes.
Check their Facebook page about it and such.
Yes. And again, we'll probably have links somewhere on our page, maybe even with the post that we post this up on
If I
our
remember.
Facebook page. Dave does that. If he doesn't remember, you guys can yell at him, not me.
Oh,
I just come here and supply my voice and thoughts.
Yeah. Also, regarding the video about the Digital Ancapistan group, right?
Yes.
Their group name is the Anarcho-Syndicalist Solar Punks.
Okay, so it is.
It was Solar Punks. I believe that's what I said.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if they have a website or anything, but that's just what they're called. So look into them if you can.
Syndicalism is always a great thing to study up on because it's very union intensive. I think that's what kind of made me want to be a synergist more than wanting to overthrow the state. It's more about working together in a society and making a society
better for everyone.
Better for everyone involved. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what syndicalism is making a society better for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
So.
So I wanted to go back to the means of production for a second. I don't actually think we're different a whole lot.
No.
I wrote, this is a piece I wrote, and it got posted on the Anarcho-Synergism chat. So I'm just going to read it. When it comes to means of production, I don't believe left and right anarchists are all that far apart. Say me and 19 other people, so 20 altogether, we decide to form essentially a worker-owned company for 3D printing. We all pull our resources and capital together evenly to obtain a 3D printer. And we each share the printer. We all democratically decide what to print. We each split the cost of materials and maintenance for it.
Yes.
And we each can use it for personal use as well.
Yes.
Each of us learn how to operate it and maintain it properly so as to keep our efficiency as high as possible.
Yes.
So the socialists would say there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No.
Okay.
No. I will interject here. A lot of times, because I have seen this before, there was a girl who, I say girl, but she's more or less a woman now, 20 years young. She made a Facebook post. She's a Trump supporter. She's white.
Oh,
I think
you talked about this.
She makes like wood carvings and stuff. She does some pretty good handiwork. I've seen it. But she's like, I will never be a socialist. She doesn't pay people to do her job for her.
She using the statist kind of socialism.
Yeah.
Not the libertarian form of socialism.
She's using the idea that socialists will take her property from her. And you're not a socialist if you want to take her property for you because you disagree with her politics. Mm-hmm. I disagree with her politics, but she's a socialist right now. She doesn't know it, but she is. She uses her own carving tools. She makes her own product, and any profit that she makes goes into her bank account and funds more of her projects for, customers.
Yeah.
She is a socialist. Even though she doesn't like the idea, she just doesn't know it because she's not educated on the idea.
Yeah.
I have the same person at work who does this. He only has the job with us as maintenance because he needed a paper trail to buy a house. And he has his own business now. He has his own landscaping business and everything. He just bought all the capital for it. And he's like, I want to make my own money. And I'm just like, same. I would love to make my own money and, do all that stuff. It's just, I lack the initiative to be an entrepreneur, so I will happily find people who have the drive to set something up, and I'll definitely go with them and be like, hey, I want to do something like this, but I don't have the ability to set something up and be outgoing, but I'll definitely throw in for it. It's the same thing. The difference is reciprocity. Like for you, instance, this is more your podcast. This podcast is more of your brainchild, because this is something that you wanted to do. You came to me one day and was like, hey, this is something I want to do. Let's do it. And I was like, fuck it, let's do it.
Right.
And I'm always excited to be here. We personally agreed on any donations that get split up. We split up evenly. 25 and 50 for the rest of the equipment or whatever. And essentially, that's your syndicalism, that's your socialism, that's that's everyone working together over collective property to, like, this. I know these mics aren't mine, but I'm still sitting here using my computer for my own information, stuff like that. So we all bring our own capital to the table, we all use it, we all profit off it.
We pull our shit together for it.
Yeah, and this is how this web show happens.
So anyway, we both.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I digressed there.
No, that's all right. So both left and right anarchists, in principle, would say this is fine. There's nothing wrong with this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in this example, let's say down the road, we all wish to get another printer of the same model.
Yes.
Right. So we do the same process we did with the first one, which is we split the cost of acquiring, maintaining, and running evenly for everyone.
Yes.
Okay. So now this worker collective has another means of which to produce.
Yes.
So we're able to produce more than we were without it, and thus this necessarily is a benefit to the workers. So say we repeat this process again with the third, then with the fourth, then with the fifth, etc., until there's a 3D printer for each of the 20 workers.
Yes.
Because with each new printer we obtain, the productive capacity of the co-op increases, because each worker can be more productive with more means of which to produce available.
Yes.
So the underlying principle here is basically the closer a collective gets to where each individual worker can be independent and autonomous for production, the more this will necessarily benefit the collective. So the more we can make individuals and workers have access to their own means of production, the less there is dependency on others, and therefore less likely vertical hierarchies are able to form. So this is an incentive for both the left and right anarchist segments to strive for this goal for the most free society as possible. So, like, think of like a spider web where you got all the dots and they're all interconnected, right?
Yes. I remember you showing me this.
I talked to you about this before. So think of them as they're all close together, right? And each dot represents an individual
The
worker.
individualist can't even say his own shit.
Yeah. An individual worker, right? And it's tight knit together. So as you expand, as each individual gets farther and farther apart, you still have your collective, but if you have empowered your individuals to be more autonomous, where they don't need to be as dependent upon other people, then it necessarily will benefit them.
Yes, and I believe one of the examples that I used is especially with Taco Bell. One of the reasons why I left Taco Bell was because I'm a team player. I like to work as a team, because I buy into the aspect that you're only as strong as your weakest link, and this really goes on when you're working in an environment that has more than 5 people all doing something different to create the same product. Essentially, in Taco Bell, we had managers who knew obviously everything that they're supposed to do for their job, but a lot of them would just be like, I'm above you, go do that. And it's like, I'm busy, I don't care, go do that. And it's like, alright, go fuck myself too while I'm at it.
Basically.
Essentially, but the way I do it at my factory job, which I still have, because that actually puts food on the table and, ensures me, is if I go to my production handler and say, like, hey, I'm bored. Is there anything you need me to do to help you out? Like, if you want, I can go grab a couple skids for you. I can go grab, I could go help, label those boxes or move something to the docking bay to be shipped out. Something like that. Or I go to quality and say, hey, is there any breaks you need me to do? Or I go to, my supervisor, is there anything? Essentially, that is the best idea to run an economy off of, or a business off of, is everyone is essentially trained. Division of labor is a great idea, but it's a dumb idea if only one person knows each job.
Yes, because then if something catastrophic happens for whatever reason, you're fucked.
Yes, if that person calls in, you are now out of that job. You can no longer produce product.
If no one else knows how to do it, you're screwed.
Yes. Which is a lot of for some reason a lot of people don't fucking think this through, and they're like, oh, you're quitting.
Oh, this
but
doesn't.
Who's gonna do this? And it's like someone else fucking buy.
Yeah, that's the whole. And I took this when I did production. I took this mindset too. Like, let's cross train everybody and build everyone up, because we're all better off.
Yes.
The better off other people can do by themselves.
And when you do this, your mindset expands. It's no longer about it. Kind of removes the individualism of people.
No, I would say this is what expands on the individual.
It expands them. It grows them as an individual, but it removes the ideal that it removes the self-centered aspect, I guess I should say. Not necessarily the individualism. It removes the narcissism, the egoist, I guess. We have a lot of people, operators. Mind you, these guys give me so much faith in myself, because there's the one manager that I had a problem with at Taco Bell. She would always delegate, one day after I put in my resignation, I looked at her and I was like, you would do great as an operator at my factory. And she never heard my stories about how fucking stupid some of my operators are. But anyone who did kind of giggled at that, because they understood exactly what I was telling her. She's like, oh, thank you. And I'm just like, that's not a compliment. Essentially, the stuff that I have to deal with is we have to teach 50-year-old people how to count. Now, mind you, they're not slow. They're not in any way mentally ill or disadvantaged. They are actually, if anything, they're neurotypical. It's just, we have to teach them how to count, and me and my production handler are about the same age. We're 23, 24,
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking pathetic that we have to do this. But if they knew how to do their job correctly and do other people's jobs, for instance, we were running on the same press that we had to teach them how to count on, 2 and 3, press 2 and press 3. It comes down, we have a conveyor belt in between them, and it's for efficiencies. Two presses create 2 parts each, or 1 part each, obviously. Mm-hmm. And they get dropped down on a conveyor belt together, and they slide down to one operator. So you have one operator running 2 presses at a very high volume because they run an automatic. Mm-hmm. So you make a lot of money out of that. Well, unfortunately, for a couple days we were running the same color but different material bases, which is an issue because one's running nylon dark galvanized, which is a gray, and the other one's running polypro dark galvanized, which is a gray. For instance, you could put the polypro in the nylon, there'll be no problem because the nylon's a very rough material. But if you put the nylon in the polypro, you're gonna have some fucking bad times, man. And guess what the fucking operators did? They weren't thinking right. And so in the meeting that we had yesterday, I told them, I was like, hey guys, if you put this in there, it's going to mess up. I'm like, the first thing you do if you're ever unsure if you're putting something in a grinder that doesn't belong there, or anything like that, check the serial numbers. If the serial number on the labor is the same thing on everything, you're good. If one of those serial numbers are wrong, you don't do anything. You come get me.
I gotta
figure it out.
I gotta fix your shit.
I will figure it out, and I will not be angry because that is my job to fix that shit. And essentially, all that is me saying, hey, this part is my job, but if you know how to do this, you can prevent me from working harder and prevent me from being angry at you for being fucking stupid.
Exactly. This is where the individual has their own thing, but it's always relative to another individual.
Yes. For instance, when I first started doing this job, we had someone who she liked to take smoke breaks every hour on the hour, and if we had a change, she will take longer on her
I
smoke break.
fucking hate people like that.
I do it a lot. I do it a lot because I get stressed out easily, and a lot of times I take a lot of food to power me because I have a very labor-intensive job, very manual labor-intensive. So a lot of times I don't have the time to sit down and eat, so nicotine does a great job at substituting my cravings.
If it helps you do your job, like that's one thing.
Yeah.
It's just in my experience.
She'll go out there and she'll
you're
like
fucking-
talk to people and be like, yo, hey, hang out. And that's fine if you have nothing to do, but when we're in the middle of a change and your
If you got
quality
shit to
and
do.
material is doing your job for you, that's not
You're fucking their coworkers over.
you're just fucking people over. You're not saying, oh, it's not a division of labor, it's not a healthy division of labor. It's called you're fucking people over. Essentially, that's how I learned how to do production. Is because I looked at my quality. I was like, you know how to do production. Show me. So if we have to ever do this shit again, where she doesn't do the change and we have to do her part of the change,
I'm not screwed over.
we're not screwed over. We can do it on time. He's like, all right. So he went in and he showed me, and now I know how to do some production. I know which parts go where, which parts get shipped out in house, which parts go out back into the warehouse until they're ready to be shipped. I know everything about that. I'm like, good. I don't know how to fucking make labels. That's okay. I know how to do the high-level work, and I'm good at it. So, again, it all helps out if everyone works together.
Agreed.
Yes. That was a very big rant that I was not planning on going in on. I think a lot of it could have been cut down, but at the same time, I'm trying to make it longer than the current events because I hate it when the current events runs longer.
Anyway, that's the principle I'm trying to explain.
Yes.
Is that
if you make the individual stronger, the collective becomes stronger.
exactly necessarily.
Yes.
Um,
You're only as strong as your weakest link, and if your weakest link is as strong as the other guy,
this is a side bit. I hear this a lot too in the anarchist community. Is it's competition versus cooperation, and from what I read, actually, it's preferably to have a healthy mix of both.
yes.
So, for example, if people were given the option of, individual sport, what's an individual sport? Like weightlifting or something. I don't know. Where it's just individuals competing with other individuals.
Yeah.
So that's one. Then you have teams competing with other teams.
Yes.
I'm sorry. No, you have just a team working together.
Yes.
And then you have teams competing against other teams. And people chose teams competing with other teams because you have a sense of community, but you still have the individual drive for the community to win.
Yes.
Or to benefit.
Essentially, one thing that I like to point out with this is, and again, this comes in the workplace environment as well with this whole strong individual, strong collectivization. Is for instance, my counterpart likes to think that he knows how to do my job longer than I've been doing my job, which is provably false because I've known how to do material since 2015. I wasn't even working for the company for a year before they decided, give this guy a chance. He doesn't understand that because I left and came back and He said that he's been doing it for 3 years. I laughed and told him I've been doing it for 5. It's, no problem, whatever. But we have a competitive idea where I need to be better than him because he's the one who's been doing it consistently longer than I have. But that doesn't mean that because he's an asshole to me every now and then, I fuck him over. Because I know that if I fuck him over,
He's just gonna find
a
you
way
over.
to fuck me over. Because the guy who works third shift doesn't do his job to begin with, so I'm already fucked over by him every day.
Right.
And he'll find out a press that third shift won't run, and he'll just be like, alright, this press has a change in an hour into first shift. I'm gonna fill that fucker up. All of it. Hope he likes draining 900 pounds of material. You're gonna be sitting up there for a long time, motherfucker.
Exactly.
So
That's where I think you need to have like a lot of the things that left anarchism is about. It requires more of a specific mindset or culture
Yes.
It requires, like, the whole gift economy thing.
And again, that's the whole mindset is another
And-
issue in general, because then you have to reprogram an entire society to believe in such
like,
things.
I'm not against it at
Yeah.
all. I think it's just going to be longer down, like, I think it's longer down the road before we'll get to there.
Yes.
Or in that case, I mean, that's if we're taking it in the possibility that it is achievable that majority of people will adopt this form of mindset, and I think it's a little naive, at least right now.
Yes.
So this is where the ANCAP will say, okay, why don't we base a society where each person's self-interest checks up against the self-interests of other people, where they like, you know, when you go to a store, I'm not going to the store because I care about the store, like, oh, I really want you to, I'm going to the store because I fucking want some shit,
Right.
and I want to get my shit and leave.
You have shit. I need shit. Please give me shit. I'll give you shit for the shit.
Stuff your stuff.
Stuff your stuff. Goddamn.
That was a sign we saw going up
Yeah,
north.
if you guys, for people, Michiganders and everything, if you ever go up north and go down M72 outside of the west side of Grayling, there's a storage company called Stuff Your Stuff, and much to the dismay of my fiance, Dave and I thought that was fucking one of the funniest things we've seen the entire trip.
So we're making jokes about it for like the next like 10 or 15 minutes about it.
My poor fiance was sitting there trying to drive us all the way up, and we're just sitting there just like, stuff your stuff, stuff the stuff, I take the stuff, you give me the stuff, I stuff the stuff, your stuff, your stuff. And I think I got slapped at one point.
Probably.
So, anyway, occupancy and use. Definitely it's always going to be a case-by-case situation. I don't think we're ever going to get past that as anarchists.
I think there's going to be a mixture.
Yes, until we have a viable, real-world working solution for that. Because that's one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of times praxis and theory
They're always misaligned.
They always misalign. In theory, something works, but in praxis, it doesn't.
Another thing I think too is that because eventually the U.S. dollar, I believe, is going to crash, right?
Oh, and I can't wait for that day.
Right. So
I know there's going to be a lot of people hurt by it. And
that
why
is
I can't
true.
wait for it,
But
because a lot of people are hurt by it are going to also end up affecting the people upstream.
But the thing is, I really believe, like, in terms of housing, right? There's more abandoned houses than homeless people, right?
Yes.
So the whole thing is, I think, if we build up communities now,
Yes.
like ulterior markets, then when it finally crashes, it's going to be a first come, first serve
Free for all, yeah.
and free for all, where people can go out and actually get what they need without fucking state intervention.
Yeah. Which kind of ties into me, the whole split that I've had recently with becoming more of an insurrectionist aligned. And I love this because, again, going back to the whole JoJo thing, I had a buddy of mine he's very big in the BLM. He's more left, but he's not politically awoken yet. So he just
takes more like socially progressive views.
Yeah, he takes socially progressive views. He's a baby leftist, so he still has like weird tendencies to support rightist kind of stuff, which is fine and all. I'm okay with people learning their own politics. That's their identity.
I mean, it's necessary.
It doesn't mean I'm not gonna fucking call you out for stupid shit or problematic shit. I'm still gonna do it, but
that's the way you learn.
I would be, like I always said, I always don't trust liberals. I would trust a conservative before a liberal, because a conservative will lie to me to my face and I'll know it. A conservative will be truthful about their dishonest abilities. A liberal will lie to my face and think that I will buy it.
That is excellently said.
Yes.
I will say, I hate conservative.
I think the only people who don't hate liberals are liberals.
Like, I hate dealing with liberals more than conservatives.
Because conservatives always have the idea of, well, I'm for the working class. They're just misguided. I'm for the working class. It's like, you're for the working class. And then I love talking to conservatives, not in a political debate, but in a way of talking to them and working with them, for instance.
And showing how their goals aren't actually like
very Marxist.
Yeah.
in
Or
return,
they're
or
not, like-
libertarian in some way.
They're actually like their goals. They're actually not being met by what they actively support.
Yeah. Because again, partyocracy always never cares about the individual supporter. It always cares about the top brass.
The party.
The party itself. You believe in the party, you win with the party. But the party doesn't support you, the party supports itself. And that's the issue with partyocracy.
Going back to Konkin explains why it doesn't make sense to have a fucking anti-state philosophy
and then have a party.
Statist party.
Yeah,
it doesn't
like
make
libertarian
sense.
party.
Exactly.
And like he was talking about JoJo and everything, and I was like, see, here's my issue with JoJo. And I said this, I believe I said this on Mike, the last recording with the current events episode for this month. I said this to him, and I was like, JoJo has a lot of decent policies that I would like, as an anarchist myself, to see enacted. I would definitely like to see tax reform, especially.
End of drugs on war.
End of war on drugs, end of war on terror. We don't need people over there dying for oil and poppies. We need people over here dying for...
We don't need people spreading democracy and freedom.
Yes.
Here's our guns in your face. Have this freedom.
But at the same time, and I told him, and I was like, see, here's my issue with a lot of the people who support JoJo and a lot of people who are libertarians is they're still conservatives. They just want to appear, they just don't support Trump. And that's the issue that the Libertarian Party has, and they're never going to fucking vent it because freedom of association and the 80-20 law. The issue is when you have people who say that they're against a state police force, supporting a state police force on a forum set up for those people themselves, I think you have to start doing some kind of vetting. I think there is definitely something you have to consciously do as a collective, not as a party, but as an individual collective, to figure out, do I want to be associated with this person? He goes against one of the biggest party issues that my party has. We don't want a state police force. Here this person is saying, well, maybe they should stop being criminals, and that's obviously one, racist, and two, supporting a state police force.
Are you saying Joe supports the state police force?
No, I'm not saying Joe supports the state police force.
Oh.
I'm saying some of her supporters have things that are very misaligned.
Oh,
with
very
libertarian
conservative.
ideas.
This is the thing. They go to the libertarian politics. They don't go to libertarian philosophy and ideology.
Yeah, and essentially it's being co-opted, and that's where you get your Hoppians and your actual fascists jumping on the libertarian and creating the pipeline that the alt left, or no, I'm not going to say alt left, that the far left actually uses to say, hey, libertarians are fascists, and you try to say, well, libertarians aren't fascists, they're just, people who believe certain things, and then you turn around and they're just like, black people are criminals, and you're like, motherfucker, I'm trying to help you, and you're just making this harder for me.
Yeah. I will say, for those interested regarding Hoppianism, actually, there's a YouTube channel I subscribe to called Back Alley Philosophy, comprised of two YouTubers. One's Filthy Heretic, one is Esoteric Entity. I like their criticisms of Hoppianism on a series they just promoted. Just side note.
Yeah. Hoppianism is a fucking disgrace. I'm sorry.
There's a lot wrong with it.
Hoppianism is essentially just...
Hoppe was definitely a fucking racist.
Oh yeah, he was. I would even go to say that the only thing that didn't make him as much of a fascist as Hitler was the fact that he didn't like a state. And I think that I think if you're saying, well, Hitler wanted a state, so he's not. So Hoppe isn't a fascist. I think that
it's one of those anarcho-fascism like he still has the fascist tendencies, but he wants to try and make it seem like it's not tyrannical.
It's essentially like saying that Marx, and I'm gonna get fucking heat for this because I've already said that Marx was an anarchist in the past, and I rescind that now that I'm reading more backing in. It's essentially saying Marx was an anarchist. Marx was not an anarchist. He was someone who believed that anarchism is a good idea, but there needs to be a state apparatus to achieve it. And obviously you can see the inherent flaw in that philosophy.
Yes.
But it's a flawed point to say that Hoppe is a bit of an anarchist because just because he didn't like a state, you need a state to enforce property norms that are essentially racist to begin with, borders and such.
You need a state to enforce unjust property norms.
Yes.
I would say that.
Yes.
Because real property norms, no one's going to call a real property norm a status.
Unjust property norms are essentially your, this land is my land.
It's the might makes right. And shit like that.
It's the idea of, and this is one of my favorites, the Native American genocide.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the idea that I took this land. My ancestors took this land after making a peace treaty with you and decided to neglect it and take this land from you and force you off of it into whatever the fuck land they decided to throw you guys in. And that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Even though your ancestors put labor into it, it's still not right because there was an NAP violation way back when. And the only reason why I'm laughing is because I still remember the Ancapistan video.
I showed him the Ancapistan satire video before this, and he had never seen it. If you don't know what I'm talking about,
I will definitely link it some point. Because that video was fucking great.
It's hilarious. Just go to YouTube, type in Ancapistan the movie, and for anyone who doesn't know, it's fucking satire, but it is awesome satire.
It's every straw man that you can have against ANCAPs is in that, and I love it.
It's just hilarious. You'll have a riot.
So, anyway, I feel like that wraps up. I know we kind of were a little bit over the road, but
we kind of went in different directions, but
we did the whole occupancy and use, and means of production definitely do go into. That was something that we talked about doing tonight, and that was supposed to be more of a secret, I guess, but
I don't know. I didn't think we would talk about it as much as we did.
We did though. Because you can't talk about property without means of production. Whenever you're talking about personal distortions between personal and private, because means of production do function in with personal and private. So.
Well, I mean, what do you own? A means of production.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it goes back to our first question in our episode. A question in our first episode of what isn't a means of production? What can't you put labor into that can't be used to benefit people?
And as I'll always close out with the whole what is means of production. And this just ties into something that hasn't really been said much, but sex work is work, by the way.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a preference. I don't think people should do it. I'm not going to stop anyone if they want to do it,
I think that there is an issue with it when people are forced into doing it. And there is definitely a sex trafficking issue about it.
I will say that is definitely one thing where it can be a slippery slope.
Yes, but that's what pisses me off about it is the slippery slope. People are like, well, I mean, if you allow it legally, then there's going to be an illegal market for it. I'm like, no, that's the thing.
That's the opposite.
Because everything that has been illegal in the past.
Had a fucking giant-ass black market.
Had a giant-ass black market for it. And if you legalize it and regulate it or have some basis of, scorecard for it turns out that the illegal market that's, very brutal for that. The drug cartels, when you legalize drugs, they lose their power because now they have something that's much more organized and stronger to compete with that will just wipe them off the fucking face of the map if they care to. And for instance, I'm talking about now the fact that the United States is becoming more open to weed. Mexican drug cartels that sell weed are kind of fucking shit in the barrel right now because
more people can grow it. More people can not have to buy it from us. Oh shit!
Essentially, their customers learned how to grow it and sell it legally. So now they're just like, well, all the supply lines are moving into America. Well, now I got to immigrate, and now their fucking president's an asshole, and that's gonna be bad.
They're stealing away my monopoly on that marijuana.
And that's why I always get in arguments about like the means of production for sex workers are their own. They should be
their means of reproduction.
God damn
it! We'll say that's the one
because it's their body. It's their property. That is essentially their property. And if anyone's like, well, a pimp, and it's like technically, if we really want to go into it, a pimp and a John.
You don't have to be a pimp, or you don't need a pimp in order to be a prostitute.
Yeah, you can definitely do that yourself. And in fact, if you need a pimp to do that, that's called you're kind of bootlicking the capitalists there because that's them. You're their private property. That's essentially it. And if you want to talk about slippery slopes, you can't own people as property. Full stop.
I will say I do not. This is one of the things that actually changed my mind. It's more of a nuance perspective. Is the whole people are property,
No.
and now and that comes from the self ownership thing, and
Like
when I say so, this is it's a matter of perspective.
Yes.
So when I say, I think self ownership now has a flaw, and it's not a flaw in principle. It's a flaw in the way you explain it.
Yes.
It's when you say a person is property.
Yes.
You know, it goes. I get this too with children are property. No,
Children are not property.
I do not believe.
If you raise your child to be your slave, they will grow up resenting you. That is complete fact.
This is where I would say no. I tell any ANCAP I see that says children are property. I'm like no, because that's logically going to justify
gives the left ammunition to call us all pedos.
It does. It honestly does.
You're just over there. It's like you need to fucking stop.
I am going to nuke you off this fucking world if you keep pounding this statement. Anyway, so it's a more nuanced perspective of. It was a while since I had it explained, but it doesn't make sense to have the owner be the owned. Inherently, it doesn't make sense. The owner is the owned thing.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense. There needs to be a level of separation between this is the owner and the thing that is owned is different than the owner.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's not, like I said, it's not a matter of principle like, oh, now slavery is legitimate. No, it's a matter of the way you go about explaining the principle. And this is why I say individual autonomy is like enacting consciousness. Is having the ability to rationale and recognize ethics. Like these kind of things are the way you should go about explaining the concept of self-ownership. But now I don't like using the words self-ownership together anymore.
And, well, I can definitely say when it comes to the means of production, especially with labor, inherently the base unit of labor will always be the people that do the labor. So essentially, if you say that people are property, you automatically say that labor is something that isn't a resource, which, as we know, anyone who's taken any kind of business class or anything, labor is a very big resource that you need.
Labor is the core
resource.
So
you automatically know that that's a lie, that's false. So essentially, and again with sex work, you get a lot of stuff where it's like this person owns their body, they get to make the choices for it, and if you have someone who owns that person and uses them for their own profit, that's exploitation on so many levels. And that's how you get sex trafficking. That's how you get that, because these people can't go for help anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The
whole idea of fucking making a black market and shit out of that whole prostitution thing.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't understand the thought process is that making a black market makes it inherently more dangerous.
Mm-hmm. And especially because, like, I understand black markets are essentially for inanimate property, but goddamn, I really wish we would have talked about this for the current events because of Wayfair.
Oh damn it, we forgot to talk about that too.
Yep, fucking forgot about it. Well, we can squeeze it in here. We're already on the subject.
I think there's too many coincidences for this not to be have some form of legitimacy behind it.
Anyone who doesn't know, Wayfair cabinets have weirdly feminine young names.
They're the last
sell
names
for a fuck ton, and they're not really looking like they should be for that.
They're
much.
The names of the labels correspond with the last names of people that have gone missing, like ideally teens and kids, and that's suspicious all by itself. And then it's also the fucking price, which is like $10,000 for a fucking dresser cabinet or whatever, and it's like
that you can usually probably go out and
there's-
find for like $100.
yeah, you could find one for way less than that. Like the very most, you'd have to go out of your way to even find one that's like $1,000.
Yeah.
Like it's so over the top and ridiculous.
Essentially that creates, like, again, that whole black market. They're selling people as property. That's the idea behind the sex trafficking, is they're selling people as property. Which again goes back to the whole slavery thing. So, but yeah, property norms are definitely something that needs to be talked about in every society, and we can't really have a genuine good discussion on such outside of theory and in practice.
This is where I think Proudhound's quote, "Property is impossible." That was the other third thing that he said.
Yeah.
He said property is theft. He said property is freedom, and then property is impossible. And I think like I said, it's only what I heard.
Yes.
I haven't actually read his book, but I
I
believe.
also heard Proudhound is one very tough cookie to follow along with, because he's very wishy-washy on a lot of things for a reason, I believe. Because I think his original intent was to create the idea that anarchy is organized chaos, so to speak.
Yeah.
And he did a pretty good fucking job of conveying that with those three phrases.
Yeah, but the whole property is impossible thing. The thing is because determining constant.
Yes. Constant occupancy and use and absentee ownership and sticky property norms. It's all very difficult
and
to...
like that even itself can be complicated. But when you throw in a fucking giant history of state interference,
then you can't...
It becomes so logistically hard to even find any sort of consistency regarding property. Yeah. I think that was what he was getting at. Or like, that was his intention behind his, like, well, just without any context, that would be my guess. Sorry, I don't want to make it seem like I'm misrepresenting him.
No, you're good. I can guarantee you if we misrepresent anyone, we'll probably get yelled at.
Yeah, tell me to fuck off and learn some shit, why don't you?
It sounds like we're masochists most of the time when everybody fucking call me out. It's like, please call me out.
Right? And call me a fucking idiot, call me a fucking idiot.
Please do.
God
damn it.
I think that was all we had to talk about, right?
Are we ending it on that note? Please tell me. That'd be fucking great.
Sure. Alright.
Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, whatever platform you're watching this or listening to this on. Donate if you want.
Hit us up with recommended topics too.
Yeah. Any cut or consumer interaction, we definitely welcome, even if it's hostile interactions.
Yeah.
At 5 o'clock in the morning while I'm running my press. Can't even spell your fucking page name right.
You guys can you can comment on our YouTube videos. You can on our Facebook posts. You can send us a direct message on Facebook, and you can also send us a voice message on Anchor. For anyone who's listening on that, yeah, you can do that.
Oh, you can send voice messages
on Anchor, yeah. They're limited to 1 minute only.
I hope if anyone tries to bully us on Anchor,
we'll play it for
you. Share it with me, and if it's funny enough, we might play it on the next episode.
Oh,
like, just as like a
hell yeah,
as like a little gift for you guys as we're leaving.
That's fucking hilarious. Do that. Definitely do
Love that. So yeah, if you have any fan mail, definitely record yourself, send it here, and we'll play it on the next episode that we record.
Hell, we might just do like a
we might make a collage if we get enough of them.
Yeah, we'll do a response episode to all the criticism we get. Or
why not?
Well, it'll just be like
it'll definitely create a community.
It'll be a fucking like audio episode. Capcom responds to this criticism. You know what I mean?
You're dumb.
Right.
That's very rude.
All right. Say you're sorry.
No.
Anyone who go fucking follow Michael Picard on Facebook. He does hilarious fucking troll videos of protests.
And I will say, definitely do, if we're doing shout outs for people that we follow, Tactical Girlfriend, someone who I'm going to talk to see if
if they want to, be associated with us in any way. There's someone who I've been in contact with for a little bit now. I don't really talk to them much because I'm very busy most of the time. But they're an insurrectionist, anarchist, left-leaning like myself. And they were actually there in Chaz. I showed you a video of her.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say hers, she, hers, the correct pronouns. I think she's obviously she's referred to herself as that, so. Anyway, that's something down the road for myself. If I fucked up on, I'm definitely going to catch flack for. But, yeah, I'll definitely go check out her stuff. If you're into guns and stuff, she does a lot of gun stuff.
Also, if you got a topic, if you want to talk to us about and be on the show to explain to us or whatever, please reach out.
We definitely do have some people, and I'll talk to you when we end this episode about this, but we do have some people, especially in our personal lives, who we've been trying to either get on the show or actually who want to come on the show and, do some talking with us. And I'm probably going to talk about this, and he's going to be very angry because I told him that if we talked about BLM, he wanted to be there. And he wasn't because we were talking about BLM today.
Oh, well.
I am in danger now.
I'm in danger.
So, yeah. So, any kind of interaction, we're not going to fucking scream at you through text messages because I don't like threatening people through text messages.
Are you threatening me?
You need TP for your bunghole?
Oh, yeah.
Alright. Anyways, we're hopefully, unless we're getting fucking locked down again from people not wearing their fucking masks, hopefully we'll see you and talk to you next week. Or next month. Not next week. Next week would fucking kill me. Next month.
I don't know. Hey, the more episodes we can record, the better.
Yeah.
Alright. Peace out, guys. Thanks for listening if you made it all the way through this.
Stay safe and have a good one.
Yep.